Hello and welcome to Spookier Times, a podcast about horror, gothic, and weird fiction across all media. My name is Robert J Gannon. I am your host, and this is episode 2 of this bi-weekly podcast. Our theme for this episode is sisters. The sibling narratives in horror have very specific forms that are taken. Brothers are allowed to be put in peril and fight and survive and come out as heroes. A brother and a sister dynamic usually sees the sister showing independence and then being protected by the brother. And if something goes wrong, it's the sister's fault. And with sisters, there's no happy ending allowed. They will be destroyed. They will never be the same. And it's kind of an unsettling trope. To start off our exploration of sisters, we're looking at one of my favorite trilogies of horror films, Ginger Snaps. The original Ginger Snaps came out in 2000. It was written and directed by John Fawcett and co-written and based on a story by Karen Walton. Bridget and Ginger are two sisters who have a very strong bond with each other, really into gothic imagery. They do photo shoots simulating death by suicide, which there's your content warning. This film goes to a lot of very deep and dark places to get into psychology of these two sisters who are completely ostracized from their peers in high school. One night while walking home, Ginger gets attacked by a wolf. Bridget helps save her. And then Ginger starts to transform. There's a lot of layers happening here. I've written entire articles before on lycanthropy as a metaphor for girls going through puberty. The female werewolf narrative is rooted in an incredibly misogynistic fear of girls becoming women. And even that sounds gross because you're dealing with a child still. But in this kind of story, something changes when, in the case of the werewolf story, they get bitten and bleed. The metaphor is pretty direct there. And yeah, for Ginger, she becomes more outgoing. She's more interested in boys. She's trying to go to parties. And Bridget doesn't understand. Her sister is literally transforming into a monster. And she only has until the next full moon to save her. So we have a sister narrative, which is one of the more common forms of this kind of narrative, where two sisters who were once close get separated by a traumatic event. Ginger becomes a villain. Bridget becomes a hero. But they are so reliant on each other's support to try and survive in a society that doesn't want to treat them well, that they enable each other's destruction. Part 2 follows the same narrative, and unfortunately we do need to go into a spoiler here, so just gotta warn you. In Ginger Snaps Back, the 2004 sequel, Bridget is alone. She herself is battling the curse of the werewolf, the transformation, and she is self-medicating with hemlock, which is a poison in large doses. She winds up in a treatment facility for teenagers and young women, where she explains to one of her new friends, whose nickname is Ghost because she's quiet and ignored all the time, that her sister became a werewolf, and she's also a werewolf. So now we have a new sister by chance bond, connecting over the bond between two sisters that still exists even after the tragic events unfolded in the first film. And again, Bridget is trying to save herself and everyone around her from a threat that only she really understands. Ginger is still acting as a source of temptation, of fear, of destruction, trying to convince Bridget to join her for good and abandon humanity. And now Ghost is both the sister Bridget is trying to protect and the instigator trying to get what she wants out of the relationship at any cost. The third film in the Ginger Snaps Trilogy is a period horror film. It is actually a remake of the first film. But instead of being set in 2000s Canada, it's set in the colonial era, specifically in and around like a fur trading outpost. And it tells the same story, but in an even more restrictive context. Ginger and Bridget are isolated from society because they are unwed teenage girls who have not found partners, even though they're only supposed to be like 15, 16 years old again, and are ostracized for it. The werewolf attack happens, the sister starts to transform, and there are accusations of witchcraft and satanic behavior and being horrible, immoral women who should know better. Now, don't get me wrong, Ginger Snaps The Beginning is full-on camp. It is meta horror. It is... It's an experience. For big fans only, I'd say, but, you know, we don't get too many period werewolf films starring women, so sometimes you take what you take. Anyway, the story of these two sisters being doomed to destroy each other as they try to save each other or develop independence, depending on their goal, is told again and again in the Ginger Snaps Trilogy. And it is a narrative that has existed for decades in cinema. We're going to talk about some of the other examples later in the recommendation portion. Right now, I have an original poem for you, inspired by another sibling narrative, and written by me. This is Boys Will Be. Boys are boys, will be boys, act like boys are boys. Girls are different. When a girl and a boy get lost, the roles are assumed. The boy is not to blame. The boy will wander. The boy will attack or grab or break. The boy will be praised. The boy will be what the boy will be because the boy will be a boy. The girl got lost. The girl was the protector. The girl did not pay attention. The girl failed. The girl was blamed. The girl was punished. The girl was different. Two roles diverge in a magical wood. One boy will be greeted warmly. One girl will be pushed aside. One boy will be treated like royalty. One girl will be assigned a job. One boy will laugh and smile and eat and sleep, oblivious to the world around him. One girl will be silent, be still, cook, clean, serve the boy left in her life. They will both break, but girls are different. No boy, stop boy. Please boy, grow boy, more boy. Girl, 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 girl. Two different. Two siblings fight to save their lives. The boy is too precious to put in harm's way. He must be saved. He must be guided. He must be protected. He is a boy who is a boy. The girl must face danger. She will be hurt. She will fight. She will think. She will do the work. She is a girl who is different. She will clean. She will question. She will stand still. She will duck. She will push. She will slam. She will murder. She will remember. She will suffer. She will be different. He will eat. He will watch. He will cheer. He will be a boy who is a boy who will be a boy because he is a boy. She will be a girl who is wrong, who is cruel, who is emotional, who is stuck in the past, who is different. She is always different. No one else is different. She is different, unchanged, unknown, unwanted, until a boy who is a boy needs someone different. Then she is good. It is previously unpublished, though I have a feeling you might be able to see it sooner than you might expect. We're now up to our segment of recommendations based on the theme of sisters in horror. First up is one of my favorite films, one of the most critically acclaimed, beloved, esteemed, remembered sisters narratives in horror, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. This was the subject of Ryan Murphy's series Feud, which resulted in so many awards. It didn't quite tell the whole story of production, but it was nice to see some of those facts start to get out there. Bette Davis and Joan Crawford played sisters who have to rely on each other after their careers in Hollywood ended due to an accident that Blanche suffered. Baby Jane, a former vaudeville star, is blamed for her sister's accident and is forced to care for her in their 2-floor home. Blanche is confined to a wheelchair, and Baby Jane can walk, but Baby Jane now has an alcohol abuse problem and is starting to lose touch with reality. Honestly, this episode was almost, let's look how Ginger Snaps and Baby Jane are the same narrative. They are structurally the same story. The only difference here is that Baby Jane is clearly coded as the villain the whole way through. Blanche is the hero. The why of their relationship is not as strong as the bond between Bridget and Ginger, but the circumstances and the pacing and the steps in the story all play out the same way. It's excellent. It actually created what we call the psycho-biddy genre of older women in peril films that meant so much more work for some of the golden age actresses who turned 40 and magically disappeared from Hollywood. Ooh, scariest story of all. The invisibility of women, but men being able to date 20-somethings well into their 60s. Anyway, moving on. Our next recommendation is the K-horror film that put K-horror on the map for the United States. It is A Tale of Two Sisters. This is beautiful and haunting and disturbing in so many ways. A teenage girl returns home from a treatment facility. She was trying to get over the loss of her mother. She moves back in home with her sister, her father, and her stepmother, and begins to believe that her stepmother is abusing her younger sister. The older sister is in the position of the protector of the younger sister who cannot help herself and has to rely entirely on the older sister to accomplish anything in this story. I don't want to give anything away. There are many films with similar revelations at the end that don't do it as well as A Tale of Two Sisters. And let's leave you to find out what's really happening. Our third and final recommendation is definitely seasonal for October. It is Trick or Treat. This is an anthology horror film where, surprise, surprise, one of the stories told intersecting throughout Halloween in a single town is a tale of two sisters and their friends going out for a night of fun on Halloween. The older sister tells the younger sister that to really fit in with the group, she needs to find and bring a boy to their bonfire in the woods. And the girl is dressed as Little Red Riding Hood, and she gets followed around by someone dressed as the Big Bad Wolf. Are you noticing something here? This is a horror film where all the myths and tales of Halloween can come true. So we are going to hit on some werewolf territory. We're going to hit on some Survivor Girl territory. We're going to hit on, unfortunately, women in peril. But it's not quite what it seems. The key to this one is the first and the last scene. Because those are when the sisters are on screen. And even though the older sister is not the star of this story, the roles we expect, antagonist and hero, protector and protected, and the fight to preserve a reputation, are all there. That's it for the second episode of Spookier Times. I am Robert J. Gannon. You can follow me at almost all social media at Robert J. Gannon. We have also just launched a Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Robert J. Gannon, where you can subscribe for as little as $1 a month to help support the podcast. Right now, we are trying to raise money to upgrade some broken camera and phone equipment. The video quality is great. Beautiful video. Lovely video. The sound ports are dying. So that brings us to the end of the second episode of Spookier Times. I hope you have fun enjoying horror, gothic, and weird fiction across all media, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.